Over on BBC2 now, Live Aid continues, and on stage at the moment, Elton John and his band. Here on BBC1 for the next 45 minutes, we have the Val Doonican Music Show. Well, on BBC2 now, Live Aid continues, and at the moment, on stage in Philadelphia is Madonna, and coming up next here in London is Paul McCartney. Here on BBC1 now, the news and sport with Jan Leeming.
President Reagan's operation has been successful. Doctors say he's now awake and doing beautifully. In Northern Ireland tonight, violent clashes between police and loyalists. Live Aid, it's already raised £30 million for Africa. And at Trent Bridge, frustration for England and for Ian Botham. President Reagan is awake and recovering tonight from his operation to remove a growth in his intestines. Doctors at the Bethesda Naval Medical Center, who also removed a 2-foot section of the president's right colon, say they're pleased with the outcome. They say they found no sign of cancer whatsoever. Mr. Reagan is said to be doing beautifully, and the operation, which took 2 hours 53 minutes, went without incident. During it, the surgeons removed the 2-inch-long polyp they discovered yesterday. This will now have to be examined before doctors can be completely sure it wasn't malignant. Martin Bell in Washington has been following Mr. Reagan's progress.
Mr. Reagan is said to have had an excellent night here and to have been in top-notch spirits this morning. He worked on his National Security Council papers. The rest of the story from the White House spokesman.
The President left his suite at 11:15 a.m. It's about a 2-minute trip from the suite to the operating room. Mrs. Reagan walked beside him, holding his hand as they proceeded down the hallway. She went to the beginning of the sterile zone in the operating suite. Both said, "I love you," and then she left him as he went into the operating suite.
The surgery lasted 3 hours, and afterwards Mr. Speaks came back, this time with the surgeons who'd taken part in the operation. The spokesman was the Chief of Surgery, Captain Dale Oller.
It gives me great pleasure to tell you that the President of the United States is now post-operatively doing beautifully. His operation went without incident, and all the findings upon exploration at the time of surgery were normal. The operation itself lasted 2 hours and 53 minutes.
No sign at all.
There was no sign of cancer whatsoever.
So the news from here is as good as the White House staff and the doctors can make it sound. The growth is benign and there's no spread of precancerous material. Yet, of course, there's anxiety for the health of the president, as for any 74-year-old facing major surgery under a full anesthetic. And that was the anxiety that caused the vice president to break his weekend at his country home in Maine and return to Washington to be on hand if needed. It was his own decision, the White House said, and not related to national security. But just before the surgery, Mr. Reagan signed letters to Mr. Bush and the Speaker of the House.
The letter will speak for itself. He said to Mrs. Reagan, who stood by his bed as he signed, "I'm signing these letters, but you're still my First Lady."
The letter breaks delicate constitutional ground and is an informal transfer of authority during the period of Mr. Reagan's surgery. He says, "It is my intention and direction that Vice President George Bush shall discharge those powers and duties in my stead, commencing with the administration of anesthesia." And he ends, "May God bless this nation and us all." But all the signs are that the operation was successful and the president will very soon be taking back the authority he gave up. He's expected to be out of the recovery room and back in his hospital suite by this time tomorrow.
Today's Live Aid worldwide concert has already raised at least £30 million for the starving people of Africa, 3 times as much as the organisers had hoped for. The London concert at Wembley Stadium is drawing to a close, but the event continues at Philadelphia in the United States. About 1.5 billion people have been watching on television in more than 100 countries around the world.
By noon, 72,000 rock fans were packed into Wembley Stadium as Live Aid began in brilliant sunshine. A fanfare echoed around the arena as the Prince and Princess of Wales appeared in the royal box. The Princess, a keen pop fan, apparently needed little persuading to join the huge audience. Alongside the royal couple, the man who dreamed up the global jukebox and who did much to turn it into reality, Bob Geldof. The first band on stage in the 16-hour transatlantic marathon was Status Quo, with a song which has never been more appropriate, rocking all over the world. Throughout the day, the stars were ferried into Wembley in a fleet of helicopters. Pictures from the stadium have been transmitted around the world from a control room at Television Centre. 160 countries have agreed to broadcast Live Aid, and the global audience has been estimated at a staggering 1.5 billion people, making it the biggest television audience ever.